Ladies and gentlemen, this is for educational use only. Our group is allowing our instructor, Mr. Roldan Nardenis, to use this is an educational material. We discuss the globalization theories. Group member Decadet Paul Alejandro Alvarez, Decadet Joe Patritas, Decadet John Casper Gilbero, Decadet Kristen Valladares, Decadet Paul Justin Mahinay, Decadet Christopher Katipan, Decadet George Montemayor. The objectives offer a comprehensive and critical introduction to the concept of globalization, explain carefully the central themes as driving forces of globalization: capitalism, governance, culture, and history. Present the theory of globalization, theory of liberalism, theory of political realism, theory of Marxism, theory of constructivism, theory of postmodernism, theory of feminism, theory of transformism, theory of eclecticism.
What is contemporary? So, it is the existing day we are living, which is today. As you can see in the slide, there is an image of contemporary world and the modern world. So, what does it mean? Simply put the contemporary world as the modern world, the present world that we are living in. This is the world where each one of us were influenced by the products of globalization, just like having a social media account, eating fast food restaurants or any restaurants, having the clothes we are wearing, and many more. So let's dive into the next slide. What is globalization? So it refers to the integration of the national markets to a wider global market signified by the increased free trade. The globalization helps the economy in a way that the local sellers could export and import their goods to any places of the world. Let's say, for example, in a simple term, a local seller just recently discovered the application Shopee. Back then, he was just selling his product on their local place and got small return of income. But since his products went available online to any part of the country, he received a lot of orders and gained some money as well as the application itself. It means the onset of the borderless world. Globalization had indeed created a borderless world because it gives interaction between the society in terms of culture, ideas, economy, and politics anywhere around the globe. According to Manfred Steger, the expansion and intensification of social relations and consciousness across world time and across world space. Manfred Steger stated that there are three basic qualities of globalization, which is connectivity, just like the internet, connect, connecting people across the globe. Second is mobility, just like the movement of business travelers. And third is the imagination, or the people's expanding consciousness on how the world works by globalization. McGrew defined globalization as a collection of multiple similarities and interconnections that extend beyond nation states. Globalization has various forms of connectivity, such that it can be economic, political, or cultural. Indeed, globalization affects the economic in a way of integration of international financing markets. Political, in a way, how national policies bring countries together politically, and cultural, in a way, focuses on the large part of the society on what are their needs that globalization can provide them, just like transportation and communication. Globalization allows for the expansion and stretching of social relations. As what I've said earlier, globalization created a borderless world where it helps to expand and stretch the social relation in terms of economic, political, and cultural. Globalization intensifies and accelerates social exchanges activities with the help of globalization. It made the social interaction more easier than before by the use of internet or even the availability of transportation that would help to exchange informations, products, or plans to be made for the world economy. Globalization occurs worldwide. Yes, it occurs worldwide. Globalization brings recognition at any national levels, especially on the production, international trade, and finance markets.
So globalization is phenomenon. So let's always be remembered that globalization is a phenomenon. And the keywords that are concerning globalizations are interconnectedness, means our similarities, commonness means characteristics in common, or sharing in cultural, economic, religious, and or political attributes. So, the next topic is a concept term that is defining globalizations, which is globality and globalism. So, what is globality? So, globality means is a social condition, which means that if it is affected by something that is changing, this kind of event, what's affecting the universe, is also affecting the economic, political, and cultural interconnection, and the global flow which makes the currently existing and political borders. So if globalization is phenomenon and globality is social condition, the next topic will be globalism. So globalism is an ideology that represents the core claims of globalization, which means this is the foundation of the globalization and the idea that is responsible for its existence. So here are some 5 claims as follows. The first claim is globalization is about liberalization and integration. This means that the removal or reduction of restrictions that follows more global connection. This also helps to facilitate connections, which leads to specializations, innovation, and economic progress. The next claim is globalization is inevitable and irreversible. This is true in the global market because in reality, we cannot control these events. Even the big known companies and even the international government do not have a hold of this kind of events. Yeah. So the next claim is nobody is in charge in globalization. So a lot of organizations or companies play a major roles in shaping the societies we are living in today. And we all think that they are the responsible for it, but the truth is all of us contributes to the globalization, especially even those who do not practice it. So again, we are all players of this kind of game. So next is globalization benefits everyone. So this means aside from global peace and terror, it also spread worldwide due to the globalization. So the advantages, it means it has advantages and disadvantages. However, there are claims that in the long run, these changes will benefit not only one but all of the majority. So the last claims is globalization furthers the spread of democracy in the world. So this means we're not talking about a political party change in a form of government. Instead, democracy rather means shared beliefs complied by the majority. That's all.
Capitalism as a driving force of globalization. Capitalism is an economic system that focuses on a free market to determine the most efficient allocation of resources and set prices based on supply and demand. Capitalism is defined as a system wherein economic distribution and production are owned by private entities in order to accumulate profit. Capitalism leans toward private ownership as opposed to government ownership. Capitalism is often thought of as an economic system in which private actors own and control property in accord with their interests, and demand and supply freely set prices in market in a way that can serve the best interests of society. Example of this capitalism is that a private ownership of motorcycle like Honda, Suzuki, Yamaha, and Harley Davidson. They are all capitalists and competing each other to make new features and models of motorcycle. They can set prices by their own. So while they are competing each other in order to sell some motorcycle and turn into a profit, so if you are need some service of your motorcycle, you don't need to go to the manufacturer. There are some small business like motor shop that can provide your services. Like you have to change oil, the motor shop can provide it. So that is what we call free market. If we are lack of free market competition, chances that our prices would increase. If there was only one motorcycle manufacturer, they could charge whatever they wanted for motorcycle, and fewer people would be able to afford them and negatively impact many other segments of the economy. Governance as driving force of globalization. The goal of global governance, roughly defines, is to provide global public goods, particularly peace and security, justice, and mediation system for conflict, functioning markets, and unified standards for trade and industry. Effective global governance will allow us to end armed conflict, deal with new and emerging problems such as technological risk and automation, and to achieve levels of prosperity and progress never before seen.
So next is the culture as a driving force of globalization. So globalization of culture contributes to the exchange of cultural values of different countries. The convergence of traditions for cultural globalization characterized convergence of business and consumer control culture between the different countries of the world and e-growth of international communications. Example is the migration. So what contributes to migrations to the globalization? So for migrations, people move within countries looking for better employment opportunities and better lifestyle. So although the migration is usually seen as a problematic, but still it contributes to sustainable development. Next is a food. As for the food, it spread a culture because food is often used as a means of retaining their cultural identity. So people from different cultural backgrounds eat different foods, and then the areas in which families lived and where their ancestors originated influence food like and dislikes. So next is the culture. So as for the culture, it convergence of business and consumers between the different country of the world and the growth of international communication. So next is the symbolic exchange. Next slide. History as driving force of globalization. So the importance of history in globalization is it can be studied from a historical perspective. By using the historical perspective, by using the historical record spanning many centuries of millennia. A history analysis of globalization, its origins, growth, and implications can provide a more comprehensive look and better understanding of the concept and discussion surrounding globalization. So there are 8 theories of globalization. First is the theory of liberalism. So short background of theory of liberalism is it was about a political and moral philosophy based on the rights of the individual. So next is the theory of political realism. When we say theory of political realism, it is a view of international politics that stresses its competitive and conflictual side. So next is the theory of Marxism. It is an atheistic and materialistic worldview based on Karl Marx. Next is theory of constructivism. It is a theory that says that learners construct knowledge rather just passively take in information. Theory of postmodernism. It is relies on critical theory which considers the effect of ideology, society, and lesson on the culture and commonly criticized universalistic idea. Next is of feminism. Theory of feminism is all about all genders having equal rights and opportunities. Next is the theory of transformationalism. When we say theory of transformationalism, it is a theory that argues that the flow of culture is not one way but a two-way exchange in which Western culture is also influenced, changed, and enriched by culture in the developing world. Next is the theory of eclecticism. It is a conceptual approach that does not hold rigidly to a single paradigm or set of assumptions, but instead draws upon a multiple theories.
So, hi everyone. So, I will discuss the two biggest theoretical viewpoints, international relations, and again, it's really important that we understand this how states enact. So, the first is liberalism or liberalist. So, this kind of embrace the anarchy system says there is anarchy. However, it says that states are not not the only primary actors in the international realm, that they point to international institutions, so to they point to international cooperations actually have a lot of weight, a lot of power, a lot of impact in the international sphere. So crucially, liberalists also believe that states can sort of transcend this power struggle, actually move towards peace and cooperation. So how do liberalists this can actually happen in the international arena? So the biggest reason they think, or the biggest way or policy they pursue, is interdependence. Liberally ideology says that states should should seek to become more independent with one another, so chiefly economically but also socially and cultural states. So liberalists say actually we need to respect human rights, we need to respect human dignity, and that needs to be something that we work towards universal in the international sphere. So finally, liberals believe in the democratic space, and this theory basically says democracies are less likely to fight one another, so they will push for an exporting of democratic values on the states. So now let's move on to the theory of political realism. So realists would say look fundamental still at the depth of everyone's foreign policy or all nations' foreign policy is self-maximization of power, self-interest, material interest, these types of things. From my understanding of realism, so at its heart is grounded in the idea of power politics and the state's desire to focus strictly on their own power. So let's think about that. That's why is that. So this realism is like competing of all states. So example, like countries build up in their militaries or go to war. So realists would say that the heart of every state needs to look out for themselves, because you can trust everybody else. So like example, the state next door is getting more powerful, building up their military well, so you can trust them, because but this military is not to use that military against you. So so for you have to build up your own and desire for its state, and any international system is to become the most powerful state in that system. So it's constant. So to push and pull you of the states trying to make themselves stronger, more powerful, military, like economically powerful, of political influence, you name it. So because you need to make sure that you're taken care of and you can trust anybody else. So in the international system as a realist.
Theory of Marxism. Marxism is a body of doctrine developed by Karl Marx, and it was originally consists of three related ideas, which first is philosophical anthropology, and the second is theory of history, and the third is economic and political program. So, according to Marx, he believed that capitalists inevitably paid their worker less than the value of goods that they produce. So, if a worker needs £1 to feed, clothes, and house himself, and he produces £5 worth of goods per day, so the capitalist would make £4 in profit. So, that means the capitalist is more profit than the worker. So, theory of constructivism. The constructivist theory is based around the idea of the learning are active participant in their learning journey. Knowledge is constructed based on experience. As events occur, each person reflects on their experience and incorporates the new idea with their prior knowledge. Learning develops schemas to organize acquired knowledge. This model was instructed learning theories by Dewey, Piaget, Vygotsky, Gagne, and Brunner. So, constructivist theory have two types. The first is cognitive constructivism, and the second is social constructivism. So the cognitive constructivism concept is schema, assimilation, accommodation, and equilibration. And the principle is learning is an active rather than passive process. Learning should be whole, authentic, and real to be effective. So the social constructivism by Lev Vygotsky have social interaction. Second is psychological tools which need but language to communicate to others. Then the third is the more knowledgeable others. So it needs other that is expert and know that kind of work, and the zone of proximal development which needs of tutoring.
Theory of postmodernism. Postmodernism relies on critical theory, which is considered the effect of ideology, society, and history and culture. Postmodernism and critical theory commonly criticize universalist ideas of object reality, morality, truth, human nature, reason, language, and social progress. Theory of postmodernism. People use it to actively construct their identities. Next is 3. There is a sense of playful and unpredictability about how people do this. The media is an integral part of postmodern society. Whether there are multiple interpretations, that is all. There is one underlying reality. There is such thing as one dominant or preferred meaning to media content. So, the postmodernist model of audience and effect. The media is constitute parts of people's realities. It, it is thus meaningless to say that the media has effect of audience. Individuals read media content in a variety of ways. How they interpret media content depends on variety of factors, and this reading change over time. Theory of feminism. Feminist theory is the extension of feminism into theoretical, fictional, or philosophical discourse. It aims to understand the nature of gender inequality. It examines women's and men's social rules, experience, interests, course, and feminist politics in a variety of fields, such as anthropology and sociology, communication, media studies, psychoanalysis, political theory, home economic, literature, education, and philosophy.
Theory of transformationists. Transformationists argue the flow of culture is not one way from the West to the developing world. It is a two-way exchange in which Western culture is also influenced, changed by, enriched by culture in developing world. For me, exploded by David Hall's its colleges. According the term of globalization reflecting by political economy, culture, matter, across the world, globalization may be the defined process of which somebody transformation and organization relation. Transformation is a theory. The transformationist is a theory of globalizations, a complex process revealing members of different. We exchange a process different culture is its two exchange cultures is also influenced by the developing of the world. The good example is a Bollywood movies from India and the various manifestation of of McDonald's burger, and also the global media, food, fashion, music, or lifestyle. Next is theory of ellipticism. Ellipticism is conceptual approach that does not hold rigidly to single paradigm or set assumption bias. Instead draws multiple theories, style, or idea to gain complementary insights in a subject or applies different theories in particular. This is often without condition or so roles of indicating how which theory were combined. Theory of ellipticism. What is example of ellipticism? Ellipticism is the use many unrelated items, different items to for a whole. For example, in a theory design, this is called mean using items from different styles and decorations to create an interesting effect, such as amazing antiques and modern pieces for a specific look.